show where we get right around the country and talk to our experts in each and every state, get the lowdown on all the big issues happening in the game of AFL. Adam Papalia with you alongside Will Schofield as he is each and every week. Scully, welcome to you.
Hello, mate. Good to be back.
Yeah, good to be with you. Yeah, it was a bit in between last week, but
Yes.
good to have you for the whole show today because the biggest news in the AFL world, in the footy world this week
Mid-season.
is not the mid-season tournament.
No.
It's not the fact that there's only 9 teams left that can make finals. It's the
it?
fact that this week Will Schofield is coming out of retirement and he is pulling on the boots
You idiot.
to play in the Carlton Draft. I can't believe this has not got more coverage around the country.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it just, it must be that big of a story that no one wants to cover it.
So we've seen a few players rolling around in the Carlton Draft.
Rolling around is probably appropriate.
Tom Hawkins kicked a few.
Yeah, he
went
looked
all right.
good, Tomahawk, but he just retired.
A couple of the other players have been injured on the way through.
Trav Cloak played
Yep.
full game, I reckon he got through. I think he kicked
Yep.
3.
Was it Brett Deledio?
Brett
got
Deledio did
injured
his
early?
quad in the first kick.
That's the last thing you want, isn't it? When you run out there.
I don't particularly want to talk about injuries because I'm quite concerned and worried about them. Lids didn't go very well and then sat on the bench the entire time.
All right, take us through it because you're jumping on a plane.
Yep.
You're heading east. Where are you playing and what's happening over the next few days?
All right, so playing for the Hill End Grove Rovers, right? The mighty Grove Rovers, right?
The Grovers.
The mighty green and gold.
Yep.
Got a bit of Mooney Meyer sort of colours about it, I reckon.
I haven't understood anything you said in the last 30
I've got the
seconds.
jumper in my bag, which is just out the front. I'm number 32. I tried
Nice.
for 31, but gave us the nearest number.
Not even for a week. They couldn't give it to you.
So I'll be in town on the Friday night. My brother's going to come up and watch me play. Gonna have a few beers. Just a few waters on the Friday night before I play, and then I'll play. Look, I'm really excited about both. There's 2 elements to this. It's Carlton Draft have put this together to support local clubs, and Hill End still haven't won a game this year. I hadn't checked last weekend, but they hadn't won a game.
Okay.
And usually that it's clubs that are I don't want to use the word struggling, but fighting to be competitive.
Yep.
And so I'm coming up twofold. One is the game, and I'll go through that in a second. But 2 is the night afterwards, and I think that's just as important because, well, it is. You can laugh, but I think what footy clubs are, especially at country level, which it's about community and connection, and it's not necessarily about wins and losses like is it AFL footy. So I've definitely gone into this putting more importance on the night, having some beers, having some fun, bit of entertainment, get the community together. But I do have to play footy beforehand.
But clearly the night will be better if you're coming off the
We're
back
going to win.
of a win.
Oh, don't worry, we're going to win. I've very thoughtfully considered where I'm going to play, and I've spoken to the coach, and he's basically said, name your position. So look,
Fullback, straight to fullback.
so fullback would be number 1 option. My thoughts with that is whether you're playing country footy or AFL, you're going to have some quick, athletic, 23-year-old whippersnapper who could be the next Nate Caddy.
Yeah.
And I'm playing on him.
So you got no interest in that?
No thanks. No thank you. No thanks
Mate,
to 10 goals out of the goal
You
square.
are
No
the
thanks.
champion of backman in the AFL world. You are the man that talks up how important backmen are to the team.
Yes, and
You were a premiership backman.
Yes, all of those are correct.
And you're not going to play in the
And
back
it's so important that I'm going to do the team the great service of not playing there because of how important it is, because I may not be in my peak physical condition. So the next option is full forward.
Yep.
Right? So my thoughts there are not the 23-year-old Nate Caddy. I've got the 29-year-old Anthony Grover that's just going to not let me get a kick, and I'll get nowhere near it, and it'll be embarrassing. So I'm not playing a full forward. So the third option being that I'm tall. Another option was the wing, but I can't run, so we're not doing that. I'm playing in the ruck.
Right.
So I'm playing in the ruck. I'm hoping to get a stereotypical country ruckman that may or may not be just a little bit taking time from the ball to get from the head to the foot. And that's where I'm going to play.
The amount of shade you throw at ruckman for their intelligence.
Yes.
And we'll chat to Cal Sinclair, and I'm going to get him to give you some ruck tips heading into this too.
Sinclair will love that I'm playing in the ruck.
I can't believe you're playing in the ruck for one because of the amount of shit you give to ruckman.
But I'll show you how to do it. You're missing the point.
What type of ruckman are you going to be? You're not going to be your Aaron Sandilands. You're not going to be your Lloyd Meek, I don't think. Are you thinking you're Luke Jackson running around?
I'll take you even further back. I'm going to be a bit more of a Jared Brennan sort of operator.
Right.
That's like in the ruck, and they're like, why is this guy in the ruck? Bit of run, maybe a couple of spins. I've still got a balk in me.
Okay.
It just depends on the weather though, because if it's sluggish, it could be a big grind in the middle. I don't have a big jump on me anymore, so it'll be stationary, wrestle, tap down, keep it tight.
Is this game live streamed? Like, I cannot wait to.
I think Clubby Sports are covering it. I don't know if they're live streaming it, but they're definitely covering it on socials. It will be entertaining. So I think over at Clubby Sports.
Scoey, a.k.a. Jared Brennan, running around, ball in one hand, spinning out of trouble, kicking off the left and the right.
Do you want me to give you my predicted stat
nuts.
line?
Yes.
I reckon I've got 20 hit-outs in me.
Right.
I reckon I've got close to 20 touches in me.
Yep.
And I've got definitely a goal, if not two.
I'm putting you down for 2 goals.
2 goals, 20
minimum.
touches, 20 hit-outs.
Is that like a sort of triple-double type stat line?
Yep.
All right.
I'll be happy with that.
Okay. We'll keep an eye on that. Looking forward to chatting through that with you next week as well, Scoey. Tell me again, so the team you're playing for...
Hill End.
Yeah, where is that?
Well, Mum texted me and said that the mushroom killer case, or the alleged killer case, or whatever's going on over there, is around that area.
Right.
So, Gippsland.
Okay.
It's in Gippsland, Victoria. It's about 2.5 hours out of Melbourne.
All right, 2.5 hours out of Melbourne. Yep. If that's your reference point of where.
Oh, you want me to tell you? It's in the middle of Victoria.
Okay.
It's just like east, north-ish.
Northeast. Okay. All right. Looking forward to that. Good luck, Scoey.
Thank you.
Been a bit self-indulgent off the top, but looking forward to seeing how Scoey goes this weekend. A couple of things to chat. We will talk through the mid-season tournament thing that the AFL is proposing with Drew Jones in just a second, but got a lot of feedback last week, Scoey, because you threw at us while we were chatting just randomly. If you were the AFL CEO,
yes,
what would you do? What would you change? And I threw up there, change the game lengths a little bit, just not by a lot, just a little bit. Take a couple of minutes off the game and shorten it up so players can play more footy and we get more games in.
Well, people weren't happy.
People absolutely come for me.
I love putting you in those positions because you hate it.
I do agree that shortening the games will allow us to get more games in a season. Like that would be the trade-off. So if you play shorter game lengths, you play an extra game in the year. Is my thinking.
What's the issue with it? I don't really have a big issue with shortening games.
No, well, I reckon 18. Maybe people are thinking COVID when it was really short.
Right.
But I'm not saying that short. I'm saying 18-minute quarters, not 20, not 16. But just some of the feedback coming through says, sorry, Adam, I think you need to take your broadcaster's hat off. The general public don't want shorter quarters. All that will happen is the broadcasters will push for another 15 seconds to play another advert between goals and subsequent centre bounce, says the Rain Man. Luck says, I hate the idea of a wild card of anything less teams play finals. The worst thing I've ever heard, says Justin, let's shorten the game.
Worst thing I've ever heard.
Another one said, we've been poisoned into thinking every game needs to be a blockbuster. Stuff the networks, just leave the game alone.
Yes, who said that?
Sorry, I don't have the name for that one. New Way says, shorter games of football get forked after a discussion last week.
Good.
Another one says, I love the length of games. Personally, as an Eagles fan, I suppose we always want more time to hopefully catch up. There are plenty of breaks at home in between goals to do other quick things and a good halftime break as well. Simo says, shorter quarter sucks. Stop changing the bloody rules.
Is that Adam Simpson?
It could be. That's just a little short synopsis.
Right.
So leave the game. Okay, that's fine. The people have spoken. It's the People's Podcast.
I'm with them, actually.
I'm happy to
I'm
leave it.
You.
That's it.
I'm against what your thoughts are. No, so what do you have? Should you have said something different?
I should have said something different, and I didn't think quick enough when you put me on the spot last week. I should have said, and this has been another, because you were saying don't go with something you've said before, and talking about advantage rule and that.
Because you carry on about
that. Well, that's my thing. So not father son. We'll change the rules on that slightly. But my biggest one is the academies. So my biggest thing I would have changed is the academies as they're set up at the moment. This year's draft is going to be completely compromised and all the picks are going to slide right back. Take the academies off the clubs and make them all AFL academies so that clubs don't get extra access. And the AFL are the ones that put the money and the resources into developing the talent coming through. So you still have the talent pathways there. You still have the development, but they're not attached to a specific club so they don't get rights to drafting them.
Right.
So that we don't have these compromised drafts.
Because right now the clubs fund them?
Yeah, the clubs do all the work. with developing the players and bringing them through.
So they should get the benefit, but you're saying
it's
take it
getting
off the
too
clubs.
compromised. Take it off the clubs so they don't get early access to these kids.
And anyone gets access to the AFL academies?
Anyone gets access to it based on the draft order, which is why we have the draft order.
Yes.
So put it back on the AFL to develop the regions, develop these areas, because that's what their job is there to do. And that way we get rid of any of these next generation academy stuff. We get rid of the Gold Coast Academy. We get rid of the New South Wales Academy. And don't say these kids will be lost to the system. Bring it in as an AFL academy and put different AFL academies in each state in all of these zones. They fund it. They develop the kids. They have links with the clubs and they make the clubs come through and give these kids experiences. But they don't get any extra access to them.
I like it.
Make it AFL funded and then we get rid of this compromised draft.
I like it a lot.
So I've had a week to think about it and I've come back.
All right, so
that's what I'd be fixing.
You might have a spot on my executive.
Yeah, that's it. I'll be next in line. I'll sit just behind you as the
CEO.
CEO.
I like that.
So yeah, that's what I would change. Give us your thoughts on that, on the feedback. Wait for people to come at me in that one as well. We're going to get stuck into the program now, Scully. Before we do that, though, if people want to get involved, support the podcast.
They can sign up as patrons. I've just put the message into the thread as to questions coming in for the show. So if you want to support the podcast, you can sign up as a patron on Patreon, backchatpodcast.com.au. Just click on Patreon at the top of the page. It's $10 a month. It'll support us here, bringing you new and better content, as well as ad-free content, discounts on all of our sponsors, and you get your questions answers whenever you want.
Exactly. This is normally where we'd plug where we're working together this weekend as well, either on 6BR on Friday Night Footy or on Fox Footy as well, but you're going to play footy and drink beers instead.
Well, I'm playing footy and then there may be beers.
What do you mean maybe?
What do you want me to do? Broadcast the game from Hill End?
What's the over-under on beers consumed to kicks attained?
Well, there'll be more beers. I could give you that.
Thought that might be the case.
Yeah.
This is the Footy Interchange. Let's get stuck right into it. The Footy Interchange, well, let's jump straight into the thing that's got quite a fair few people talking. We go to our man in Melbourne from Fox Sports and Goat Fantasy as well, in Drew Jones, who's the man who knows the ins and outs of this proposal. Drew, explain it to us, because there's a bit of criticism out there, a bit of misinformation. People aren't quite sure what it actually is, but explain it to us. What is this mid-season tournament concept?
Well, it's just interesting from the AFL, boys. We see this time of year, I guess we call it kite flying by the AFL, or they'll allow an idea to be leaked out into the AFL world. And then we see the response from the general populace to see how it goes down with everyone. But the idea of trying to add some more value to a middle part of the season where perhaps there's not as many blockbusters, people lose a little bit of interest in all of the games that are being played, to add some stimulus for players to earn some extra money. And then to add this extra in-season tournament like the NBA do, where there are games that are played during the season which count towards essentially a separate cup competition. So from the AFL perspective, I'm not sure that this fits into our competition as well as it does in the NBA, where they end up having a big junket in Vegas where a few teams go over. There's a bit of a celebration, but everyone gets to enjoy a weekend in Vegas and lots of extra attention. I, this morning on my socials, put out an alternative idea to the mid-season tournament, and I just want to throw this to you guys to see what you think. So every team plays each other once. Gather round is incorporated into that. And then I'm happy to have a rivalry round as well if we want to ensure we get the extra week of fixtures for Western Derbies, Showdowns, Sydney Derbies, Carlton v Collingwood, whatever it might be. That gets you to 19 games. Play when Tassie are in, everyone each once, rivalry round. Then the draft order is set once you play every team once. And then the competition is split into three. Top 6, middle 7, bottom 6. The top 6 play off for the seedings to start the finals. The middle 7 play off for wildcard spots in the finals, whether that be 4, 3 or 2, whatever format you want to do. And then the bottom 6 play off for pick 30, which is added in to the draft. So West Coast might get to this last 6 rounds of the season. They feel like they've actually improved, even though they're last on the ladder. and set themselves for a big 6 weeks and try and get themselves an additional slot in the draft at the end of the year. Then we have your wildcard weekends and then the final start. That's my proposal to keep more meaningful games as the season goes on. And then you get a couple of extra games into the finals rather than this weird fixture where you play some teams twice, you don't play, Collingwood would never play at GMHBA Stadium, all this sort of stuff. That all gets sorted out by playing each other once.
Thoughts?
Thoughts and queries, please.
I like your concept, and I've seen it sort of in a few variations. I think it would be good to reset the season after 18, 19 rounds, whatever that is. I think that would make sense. There would be a few areas of concern. One being allowing, I guess not valuing the 19 games and letting a side that's finished 13th or whatever that position is to then make finals somehow, because they've been shit the entire season and then somehow they string it together for 5 games and make finals. The other one would be, I think it'd have to be, a pick 30 or whatever that incentive is in the back end. That would probably, I don't know, you'd have to tweak that a little bit, because basically whoever finishes top of that group, like the 13th ranked side or 14th, whatever, they're just going to, you'd think they're just going to get another draft pick for being no good. Like right now, as we see it, West Coast or North, probably West Coast. I don't know if they go and beat those sides in a 6-game tournament. I don't know.
Yeah, that's the one for me, is just that bottom 6, how those games work with, they're not going to be rated all that highly, and we'll still have, 5-6 weeks of those games being played. So
yes,
that would be my only concern. I don't mind the middle bracket trying to push up to finals. I think that's quite interesting. But I think for me, that's just a wildcard round, which will keep teams going for a little bit longer. What's been the reaction over there, Drew, to the in-season tournament type discussion? Because it feels like most people have sort of slammed it.
I don't know if I've seen any really positive reactions to it. I think for the most part, people will say, I like the idea that the AFL are investigating ways to jazz up the season, and it's understandable to look to other sports to see what they're doing. Ultimately, it feels worse than what we're doing now. That's my perspective and a lot of people's perspective. And it's already a fixture and schedule that is just way off. So to make it worse just seems, to entertain the idea of making it worse just seems like a step in the wrong direction. But no doubt there's something that has to be tweaked. I mean, we'll see less buys next year. We know that. Wildcard round is still on the agenda and a discussion point. So there's a couple of things that may change, but this is really, we're getting really drastic here.
Hamish Brayshaw had a half a decent point last night on BackChat, and he went a bit rogue with it. But basically he was, if they did this mid-season tournament, open the lists up, expand the list to like 60 to 70 people for this period of time and have this like ultimate extravaganza. He had like 9 games a night. They were 20-minute games. But it was like basically open the salary caps up, open up the commercial, and just let it free for all. Sponsor it by whoever. There's no protected partners anywhere, because in the end, although the AFL might paint this as it's a jazz it up thing, it's just a money thing. Everything is. So if you could guarantee a way that everyone makes heaps of money, they'd probably do it.
Let's bring back AFLX instead and just roll that way. Drew, yeah, it's so much to unpack around that. The last thing from me on this one is I just don't like the fact of, if it's a mid-season tournament of games that don't count towards premiership points over the whole season and having it separate, I just don't understand how that's going to work. Drew Jones, we've still got you there. We're moving on to Essendon, are we?
Yeah, so the news overnight that they are going to relay the 2 training fields at the club as they undertake a review of their high performance and strength and conditioning. So I think, and Will, you would know this, it's not unusual for these departments to be constantly reviewed and looked at a football club. You're always trying to be better. But just the level of injuries, the re-injuring of players through clearly an extra session that probably wasn't needed during a bye round. These are all red flags, and to the point where the reporting from Mitch Cleary is that players are entertaining the idea of leaving the club because they want to get better care elsewhere. Like, that's serious alarm bells for a football club. So there's no doubt that Essendon are going to have to make some changes off the back of what's likely going to be a pretty intensive review of the program and the way they run their strength and conditioning and high performance. But it's put them into this accelerated rebuild position. So as bad as it's been, the fact that they've been out of blood, 11 debutants, we've actually got to look at some of their young players. It probably holds them in good stead for the long run. It's just been an unfortunate way to get there.
So did I see Jai Caldwell's gone in for surgery as well? Did I see that just before? I mean, that could...
Yeah,
this can be
syndesmosis injury, so he's likely going to miss the rest of the season.
So this can be GOAT fantasy sort of areas here, because a lot of the top teams have Jai Caldwell on their team.
Well, he was almost the best target in terms of a midfielder that can do it all for you. He's got a fantasy game, doesn't get tagged, and had a good 2 weeks ahead of him. So if you're really brave, you go to Zach Merritt this week for the Richmond matchup, because he got 149 against them last time out, and back in the midfield against the Suns, he was absolutely fantastic. But you have to be willing to then potentially trade him after that, because he's got a run of 4 or 5 weeks where he may well get tagged. So what I'm looking at going forward is, what do we do about Bailey Smith? If you have traded him out last week off the back of the laid out, do you bother to get Bailey Smith back in and ride that wave of, is he going to play? Could he be a laid out? If he misses a captain's run, are you going to panic and jostle your trades around? That's the big challenge with Baz right now. So I'm going to say to people, take Baz on, particularly this week. They play GWS away with Toby Bedford potentially ahead for the tag, and just keep a little eye on Lockie Whitfield, who is about 930 grand roughly with a huge break even. He's going to be in just about everyone's team going forward. So good luck with your trades, because it's tough this time of year.
Is. I'm sure Geelong will be up front with Bailey Smith's availability for the weekend. Drew, as always, mate, thank you very much.
On you, boys.
Drew Jones there from Fox Sports and GOAT Fantasy for all your fantasy news. Well, let's head to sunny Queensland and check in with Tom Rockliff. Of course, Rockliff Finance for all your finance needs. 200 gamer in the AFL. I think if you're watching on YouTube, we find him in a bit of a different location this week compared to where we normally see him, Tom. But great to chat to you, mate. And the Brisbane Lions continue to roll on. Still not 100% probably at their best, but they do find a way to win games.
Yeah, they certainly do. I think that's the scary thing for the competition at the moment. I mean, Collingwood are a clear number one seeds, but Brisbane turned it on for a 20-minute period, and their footy is irresistible, and it's actually incredible how quickly they can score. We've seen on Saturday night in that first quarter, Port Adelaide had the better of them for the first 15 minutes of that game, and in a 5 or 6 minute period, they put 6 to 8 goals on them. It was just irresistible footy. They couldn't miss, and they've done that all season, spoken about playing patchy footy, but for opposition teams, if you can limit those goals in that 20-minute period, if you can keep it to 2 or 3 goals, you'll probably beat Brisbane at the moment. But if you can't, and they put up 6 to 8 goals, which they do, it's game over, and we've seen that on the weekend. So if they can get everything to click and play for larger chunks, the grand final is pretty much theirs to lose, in my opinion. Watch them pretty closely week in, week out, but they've got talent all over the park. Their ability to intercept defence, their wingers slide really hard. Jasper Fletcher is a guy that flies under the radar, but his support defence is as good as anyone in the competition. And then they springboard off that. You flick it into Dane Zorko's hands, he hits the corridor, and you've got McCluggage, Berry, Rayner, Lockie Neal. These guys just lining up to lick their lips and then lay it down inside 50 to Charlie Cameron, Eric Hipwood, Logan Morris. They've just got stars across the ground, and they're playing in 20-minute chunks, but if they put it together, they're going to be hard to stop.
So do you think their best footy, which sounds like you saw on the weekend, is the best in the comp?
Yeah, I believe so. I think when they're up and going, that first quarter, Scully, was probably the best live footy I've seen from both teams in at least 10 years. That first quarter, do yourself a favour if you missed it around Australia. Watch it on replay or whatever you can get it on. It was high intensity, pressure like, both teams attacking the footy. And Brisbane just went to another level that Port Adelaide couldn't even get near. It was remarkable footy to watch live, and if they get on a run, they're near impossible to stop.
Yeah, great to see the standard of footy was so good in the Tom Rockliff Cup as well, just living up to the standards there. Gold Coast Suns, big game for them this week. Friday night lights, huge game against the Pies. What are you looking forward to seeing from them this week to show that they're the real
I can't
deal?
let that one slide either, Paps. I had to shine the pig cup up and go and present it to Brisbane after the game. But Friday night lights. I mean, someone that had to wait 170 odd games before I got my first Friday night game, Gold Coast Suns. I haven't fact checked this, but I believe it'd be their first Friday night game on the Gold Coast ever. They've had to wait a long time, and rightfully so. They haven't played great footy over the 10, 15 years they've been in the competition, but they get their first crack at it. And what better chance against Collingwood on a Friday night, school holidays. It's sold out weeks ago. It's going to be a massive crowd. It'll be a hostile environment for them. But what a great opportunity for them. We've seen them do the job on Essendon on the weekend. Not convincing, I wouldn't say, but down there. But on their home deck, that they're a different beast. And Matty Rao back to his contested ball beast. Noah Anderson, I think he's winning a lot of media awards. I know he's certainly winning the Triple M MVP for the year. So this is their first real test to see in the back half of the year if their best stacks up, if they're the real deal. And they've probably got to start to win this. Having a look at their draw on the way home, they need to grab a scalp. They've got Brisbane to come. They've got some really challenging games, the Giants as well. So some top 8 teams. What better chance for a young emerging team than a Friday night? All AFL eyes will be on them on their home deck to showcase what they're about in season 2025. I think Dimmer will have them fired up. They've got that mentality about themselves at the moment. You see in their post-game interviews, they're not giving anything away. That they're playing their way, doing it their way. They're not going to take any shit anymore. So I'm really looking forward to this, and I think they'll be up for the contest.
For what it's worth, 9 teams can make finals pretty much. I ran my eye over it. I think Gold Coast might be the team 9. I don't know. They've got a big 3 weeks coming up. They'll have to win this game for me to be proper real deal. I've got them missing.
Yeah, so do I. I did a ladder predictor and another podcast I do. I had Sydney slipping in. I'm a bit nervous. I think their best is good, Sydney. But yeah, the Gold Coast Suns, I think, can potentially still miss. I know they've got a couple of games up their sleeves, but they've got a tough draw on the way home. They've had a soft draw so far in the season. I'm looking forward to this one to see if they are the real deal. They win this, they probably secure their spot.
Brilliant stuff. Tom, before we let you go, Will Schofield's making his playing return this weekend. Can you just give him a little bit of advice how to go about it?
Well, I've done it once, Scully, and all my advice would be don't have 40 schooners the night before because it's not very fun going out there and trying to do it. I did it once in Broken Hill, and I was blowing fumes, I reckon, until 3/4 time. Just don't do it. Just try and limit yourself to maybe 5 or 6. Don't have 40.
That's such good advice. We just spoke about that. Oh, wow. Thank you, Tom.
Brilliant stuff, Tom. Some wise experience from you, mate. Thank you very much.
Good on you, gents.
So will you take that advice on
board? So was the line coming down from 40? It might be, yes.
Yep.
Yeah.
Just under 40.
Yeah.
39's fine.
Correct.
40's not. The Footy Interchange. The Footy Interchange as we head to New South Wales to check in with Cal Sinclair, of course, former Swan, former Eagle, great ruckman during his time, which we'll talk about with Will Schofield shortly because I'm looking forward to getting Cal's insight. But first things first, Cal, as we keep it nice and straight off the top, the Sydney Swans, really impressive win over the Dockers.
Yeah, they were. It was probably forecasted to be potentially game of the round. I think both teams, it was an absolute crucial win for either of them. Once again, the Swans, it's looking unlikely and tough, but it just keeps them within just a slight sniff. You just never know. But for the Giants, for Fremantle, it just puts them under significant pressure now to, I guess, consistently perform towards the back end of the year and secure a top 8 spot.
What about some of the Swans around the selection and injury bubble? We know Joel Amarty's now done for the year, I think. I saw that somewhere. And Ollie Florence been in and out of the side. What do you got to say about those two boys?
Right. Well, it's just interesting. Like, We'll start with Joel Amati. Like, the Swans are just crying out for a consistent key forward to just play week to week. Now, unfortunately for Joel, he actually just cannot get out on the park. He has chronic soft tissue injuries. Ollie Florent at the moment, he's been out of the side since about round 11, I think it is. He may have made one appearance between now and then, but he just seems to be completely out of favour. Now, if you look, down to Melbourne, there's a couple of key forwards down there, one being Charlie Curnow and Harry Mackay. I'm not an expert on trades, but one thing they do need is a good ball user, the Carlton Footy Club. So I just wonder at the end of the year, do they, pitch Ollie Florent to, maybe pull out one of those guys from Carlton and do a swap? Maybe you throw Joel Amati in the mix and maybe a trade, but it's just an interesting little conundrum to think about.
It certainly is. Looking across from the Swans to the Giants, who did it pretty easily against the Eagles on the weekend, and got some milestones coming up.
They did, and I thought it was very humorous of the Giants social media committee to poke a little bit of fun at the rivals there in Sydney, who actually did them a favour. But mate, they were, outstanding against the Eagles. It was probably a clear training drill, and probably shows how far the Eagles are off it at the moment. But I think one thing that's interesting, I've commented pretty hard on the Giants' midfield depth at the moment. They've had Cagnilio return through the VFL. Actually had a pretty good return. I think he had 23 touches, 6 tackles and 6 clearances. So I just wonder, do they bring him in against Geelong this week to, try and get some run on his legs heading into the back end of the year? Might be a bit too soon, but we'll wait and see what they do at the selection table.
We'll see if Lockie Whitfield comes back in as well after that concussion. Cal, before we let you go, Will Schofield, as we've spoken about off the top of the show, making his return to footy this weekend. He's not playing as a defender, though, which is where you'd expect him to play. He said he is good enough to play as a ruckman as he runs around this weekend. And given your expertise in that position, can you just give us some advice for Scully heading into this and what you want to see from him as he rolls around there in the ruck?
I played a VFL Past Players Legends game on Saturday, and the first thing I did with the coach was I said to him, I want to play off halfback, and I want to do corridor kicks, bounce the footy, and sell candy. Everything that I was denied of as my 12-year career as a player, I attempted to, I pitched a case for. But no, I ended up in the ruck. Scully, good luck on the weekend. I hope it goes well for you. If any ruck advice would be keep your feet, knee into his throat, and get the shin guard as high as up on that shin as high as you can.
So Sinkers, do I need to get a shin guard? In all seriousness, I need a serious answer here. Do I need to play with a shin guard?
I would do some scouting of who you're actually coming up against, because if you're coming up against someone who's probably 15 years younger than you and has a leap, I probably would invest in one. But if you're coming up against someone who's past it, kind of similar to yourself and I, you might be able to just wrestle on the ground and stay safe. But with shin guards, half the battle isn't necessarily getting an area to the shin, it's the studs. That was the one that used to get me. The studs would just scrape your shins, and next thing you know, you're in emergency with a bottle full of betadine.
I might sub Sinkers in. Let's fly him down to Gippsland and play him in. I reckon he's still got it.
Get him up there just to coach you through the game.
I will say right now, I played 2 20-minute halves in this game for Port Melbourne on the weekend, and I could not move post that game. So change of direction is not my strength, and it's very, very ordinary. But the funny thing was, when a ground ball came, mentally I was still there, and I was like, man, I'm going to pick this up. My hips, my hammies, and my ankles genuinely would not move to get that ground ball. It was bizarre. Oh, God. But anyway, good luck, Scully. And, mate, take your co-workers out for a free feed after that big paycheck you're getting.
Off, Sinkers.
I'm looking forward to that, Cal. You can come and join us as well.
Thanks, Callum.
Thank you, mate. Cal Sinclair there. Is that helpful advice in the ruck?
All he did was say how bad he was. What advice did he give?
Well, he's just
foot into the throat, knee into the throat. No, I can't jump. I don't think I'm going to get a shin guard. I'm not wearing a shin guard.
You're not going to?
No.
Can you get those?
I used to play in the ruck and the waffle 3 years ago.
Yeah, without a shin guard?
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know. I actually don't know why they need them. I'm serious.
Look for Scully to strap a mattress to his leg in the second half after he gets those studs down the front. Yeah, that's it. Thanks to Cal, all the footy there in New South Wales. Footy Interchange as we look at both Western Australia and South Australia this week. I don't know what's going on in the footy world. I didn't think people were allowed to take holiday scoey in the middle of the season.
Maybe just you and me.
We're locked in here. But
Anyway, I'm off to Melbourne
Eliza,
tonight.
you're going to be. It's not a holiday. You're working.
I am working.
Absolutely. Eliza Reilly and Sim Thomas Wilson, our two intrepid reporters from WA and South Australia, are separately, not going together, but separately headed to Europe for a couple of weeks.
Bizarre
How good is
behaviour.
that?
Tell you what, great employers.
Yeah.
Maybe they're former employers.
I've never been able to get that over the line in the middle of the season, but take it if you can get it. So we will have another reporter for us and a very good one too next week. So stay tuned for that. But we will talk now footy out of WA and South Australia. So I'll start with Western Australia, obviously where we cover a fair bit of the game. Freo on the weekend. That's a massive opportunity lost for them in a game where they didn't play well, could still have pinched it at the end of the game, but it puts them right back in the pack now. And despite coming off a 6-game winning streak, the pressure's right back on Justin Longmuir, it seems, from listeners we took on Talkback Radio, other media commentators as well. Is that fair? Is that justified?
No, it's ridiculous, actually. 6 wins in a row, playing a brand of footy that stands up in finals, and they got a few things wrong on the weekend, but that doesn't mean the coach is going to get fired. So, people love to say, it's because of the way the contract's set up or whatever. He knows this, Justin Longmuir. He is in a pressure industry, and they are sitting on the bubble. Like they're not in third place, 3 games clear. They're in 9th right now, out of finals, and there's 6 teams all about the same points as them. So it's going to be high pressure through the rest of the year. So if they win, is that less pressure? Probably not. They've got to go out and do that. The biggest thing I think they got wrong, and I saw Andy Brayshaw's comments on this in the paper today, was they played as individuals, and specifically they left Caleb Sarong on an island with James Jordan. I saw not one player go and help him, which I thought was a real indictment on that group. It starts with Sean Darcy and Luke Jackson, both bigger bodies. They should be bumping and clashing with James Jordan the entire game, especially with 2 of you. And then the rest of the midfield, they got to find ways to stand up as well, whether that's doing it yourself and going and getting a kick and getting clearances, because they couldn't do that to start the game. Or what I would like to see more physicality on taggers. You can't leave your best player be owned by, in this case, James Jordan or a tagger. You need to go at them aggressively. That can be go at James Jordan aggressively, or that could mean, all right, let's go to Isaac Heaney or Chad Warner and absolutely barrage him. They did neither, and that's why they lost.
Can't wait for this weekend's game between Fremantle and Hawthorn. It's one of those games that's going to shape the top 8 and the way that looks. For Freo, though, their midfield's been beaten pretty comprehensively in 2 games, albeit they turned it around. In both games, they managed to even things up despite being beaten early. There'd be a fair few chats, as you sort of suggested this week, about how they lift that. And for me, like the criticism of Justin Longmuir, he's not the one out there in the middle doing that stuff.
No. There's a little bit of a mindset to it because, Hammer said it well last night. All week, Sarong would have been circled on the board. Every meeting, every midfield meeting, they would have all known. So when goals were kicked or things happened, they were all coming at him. You need to have the reverse psychology on it. Like, you need to circle James Jordan knowing it's coming. Whoever this bloke goes to, we're making it a hard day. Or we're going to go, like John Worsfold used to, Wooshy, I see it into my brain, Woosha, when there was going to be a tagger, or quite often like a forward tagging a backman or something like that. His advice would be, if you see it and you're watching it, whatever they just did to our mate, you turn to your opposition and you do the same thing. And then you say to them, anytime I see, let's say, James Jordan do that, you're gonna cop it. Right? And he'd tell everyone to do it. So what we should see is anytime James Jordan puts an elbow into Caleb Sarong's ribs, 17 other blokes getting an elbow. And it was a good mindset. That's all it was. It was a mindset thing. Clearly, you're not going to have 17 blokes do it, but it was a real, you're going to take on us, we're going to take on you. That's what you need to change. And yes, it is a coaching thing from the start, but you need proper buy-in from the players too.
So massive game, Fremantle and Hawthorn coming up on Saturday night, which I'm really looking forward to. Looking at West Coast, really disappointing, I thought, on Friday against the Giants, mainly because of the way they started. and we saw that 2 weeks ago in the game against Carlton, or 3 weeks before that in the game against Carlton. Really poor first quarter, and then no chance of getting back into the game from there.
Yeah. Starts are a really common pain point for young sides because you almost need to get into the game a bit to start remembering what you're meant to be doing. And I know that sounds terrible, but I think it's a pretty common problem to be starting poorly. I do wonder if Andrew McWalter is putting something in place to make sure they start well at the very least, because you'd almost rather the opposite, sort of like they did against Collingwood. You'd rather, and I think fans were pretty happy to be leading at halftime and then really fall away than be out of the game halfway through the first quarter, which they were against the Giants. There's structure, there's strategy, and there's mindset. It all goes together. But overall, I do think it's just such a young side with no experience that they're learning on the go a bit.
Is Ruben Ginbey leading the Eagles best and fairest?
He'd go close to it, wouldn't he? I love him as a backman. I don't think he should leave there. I think he was recruited at a stage where everyone was looking for that Marcus Bontempelli big body midfielder, and I just don't think he is that. He might grow into it maybe, but he's a really good backman. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that, having a really good backman in your side, especially with their depth at key position. So, yeah, I think he's going really well. He'd be sort of top 5 in the best and fairest, which is pretty big for a third year.
Yeah. The Eagles go across to play Port Adelaide as we switch our focus to
Yes.
South Australian footy. The Power, as we chatted with Tom Rockliff earlier, it was a good game between them and Brisbane, but the Lions obviously got it done. For Port Adelaide...
Can I pose a question to you with Port Adelaide? Why has the chat gone nowhere with Ken Hinkley coaching somewhere next year? I mean, clearly, we know he's done. We saw, the emotion around Sam Pepper, and I thought that was brilliant to see, a real person say how upset he was about not being able to coach him again. It sounds like he wants to coach next year, doesn't it? Why have we stopped talking about this?
That's a good question. I don't know.
He's a very good coach.
I seem to think he'd be more likely to go into like a coaching director's role or
Right.
something like that and go and help another club perhaps rather than being the main man. He's certainly more relaxed. Did you see him with the lolly teeth put in his mouth, looking up?
That's good.
That's quite good. Quite good. But where do you see Port Adelaide right now? What are they going to get out of the rest of the season? So they're in the 11th spot right now. If we had a wildcard weekend, they'd still be, fighting for a spot in the finals, which I think would be a good idea.
I don't.
But what do they try to get out of this last part?
Well, you've got to. I just don't think they are a chance to challenge for finals where they are now, given their percentage. Like they're 4 games back, effectively.
Yep.
So you've got to find ways to, 1, build for the future, but 2, you got to think pretty seriously about contract decisions as well. So you're starting to look at players. Will they be a part of the future? Look at good players who are coming out of contract. Do we need to give this guy more mid-minutes? Do we need to make sure he's the man so he feels like he's going to sign on? Like, has Miles Bergman committed to them yet? He has, hasn't he? Maybe.
Yeah. I don't know if they actually announced it, but he
feels like,
happening.
Regardless of what he's done, that feels like a guy that, well, we need to make sure he's happy. And then these are things that happens for sides that can't make finals. You need to start thinking about next year right now. And so they'll be making decisions, I'd say, around their forward line and their back line. The midfield seems pretty strong and a real strength of theirs with, I know a couple of these guys have spent time through the back line, but Rosé and Butters and Wines and Horn Francis and, Bergman now, a mainstay in there. They need to make decisions at either end of the ground, Port Adelaide, and I think they'll be doing that over the next little bit.
So Port, we'll see how they finish off their season. That's against West Coast on Sunday. The Crows, obviously losing Rochelle's a big loss for them for a number of weeks. But again, they're well positioned, 3rd position right now, the Crows, and a huge game against the Bulldogs. Another one of those games that's going to shape how the 8 looks heading across to Marvel on Saturday.
Well, I actually think the next 5, if I look at the next 5 weeks, Adelaide probably has the hardest next 5 games of the top 9 teams. They play Bulldogs, Gold Coast at home, the Showdown, which is always a good game. It's always tight, no matter what the sides are doing. In fact, right now, if you said who you're going to pick, I'd pick Port Adelaide just because...
Well, they'd love nothing more than
Ken Hinkley
upsetting the Crows season.
They've got Hawthorn. So they play 3 games at home. They go Gold Coast, Port and Hawthorn, then they play West Coast here. West Coast here, I know that's not a danger game per se, but it could be in 4 weeks. So that's a tough 5-week stretch. They need to win at least 3 of those games. So to do that, they're proper real deal stuff. I just look at the draw and I wonder how many of those they do win. How many of those do you think they win? Bulldogs, Gold Coast, Port, Hawthorn, West Coast.
I think they win all their games at home.
So they won't. Okay.
So maybe they drop the one to the Dogs at Marvel because the Bulldogs play so well there.
I think
at Adelaide, they're a very hard team to beat.
I think they're a real chance to lose all 3 of their games at home.
Really?
Yep.
That would see them sliding out of the 8.
Yep. I think it's between them and Gold Coast.
So you got the Crows. I sort of had them locked in my top 4, the Crows, if they win those games at home.
Yeah, well, I don't have them winning them, so there you go.
All right, we'll keep an eye on that over the next few weeks. That is our update for WA and SA here on the Footy Interchange. The Footy Interchange as we get into our injury update with Steve Gravina, former physio in the AFL, of course, front-runner physiotherapy as well, and I'm very much looking forward to this discussion. We'll talk Scully's elite preparation for his comeback very, very shortly, Steve. But welcome to you, mate. First things first, let's talk some serious injury news. It was a really nasty one. I was calling the footy at the time, glanced up at the TV and saw Josh Reilly just land on that leg and the knee bend in the wrong direction. That did not look good, but thankfully looks like he's escaped the worst of it.
Yeah, so a nasty looking one, similar to Sam Darcy with the forced hyperextension of the knee. It can be worst case an ACL where going into that hyperextension position, it stretches the ACL beyond what it can handle and tears. But yeah, fortunately, it looks like he's escaped major ligament damage. He's, by the sounds of it, injured the posterior capsule of the joint. So if you imagine going into that hyperextension movement, the back of the knee gets fully stretched, and the first thing to get injured is the posterior capsule. So soft tissue at the back, which will take a little bit of time to heal. And then at the front, there'll be bone bruising. So again, if we look at a hinge of a knee joint, when you bend, when you go into hyperextension, the 2 bones at the front will merge and clash and create some bruising. The tissue at the back gets stretched. So, by the sound of it, not a fracture. So potentially a quicker turnaround than Sam. I think he got back in 8 weeks, but bone bruising is unpredictable. And so your first couple of weeks, you just take it really slow and then you build him up as he can handle. So probably around that 6-week mark, but yeah, time will tell.
What about Sam Lawler, mate? This is a disappointing story for the number 1 draft pick this year. I've seen a bit of history been floating around that maybe he was suffering with tendon stuff at the start of the year. He missed with a soft tissue and now he's out again. How have you read this one?
Yeah, so for a young kid, a really tough start to his career. Yeah, I think by the sounds of it, he had a hamstring injury pre-draft. He missed the finals campaign over there. But from what I can understand, there was potentially some tendon involvement, and they really nursed him through the pre-season. But he built back and did a solid pre-season and played early in the year. Had a hammy injury mid-year, same hamstring as the pre-draft injury. And they took a conservative approach. So they took that 6-week layoff and built him back up. When that happened, you would imagine if there was any sign of a significant tendon injury then, they would have taken a more conservative approach. So, the imaging findings mustn't have been too bad. And, the word coming out of the club is he hit all of his markers in the gym and with his high-speed return, and they built him back well, but then obviously didn't last very long. So what can tend to happen, the imaging can only tell you so much, and I'd imagine if someone went in there, surgically now had a look, the involvement in the tendon would be quite pronounced now. And that may have been there 6 weeks ago, but the MRI might not have picked it. So, all of our investigations, as advanced as they are now, they still miss some things, and I'd imagine it didn't show the true nature of the injury, which has left him vulnerable this week. Back in your day, Scully, we weren't even able to pick these sort of more small central tendon injuries, and they would have just been mismanaged, and you give them 3 weeks, they come back, do another injury. So we're more conservative because we're picking up a little bit more, but we still can't pick it all up.
Yeah, really tough one for a young player as well. In terms of recurring injuries, unfortunately for Sam Powell-Pepper, I think this is one that the whole AFL industry thoughts went out to him with another ACL.
Yeah, really tough to see. It's 15 months from his first ACL on the opposite side. So, once you do one, your risk of doing the opposite side goes up significantly. You really are high risk within the first couple of years of returning from an ACL. It's interesting, like even 2 years down the track, a lot of the research is showing that there's changes happening even at a brain level in terms of how protected you are with the changes that happen after an ACL injury. So the risk profile is quite high, and we do see commonly either the same knee go or the opposite knee go within that 2-year period. But you could see on the vision that classic mechanism, similar to one we chatted about a few weeks ago, where you're running at pace, trying to cut, your foot plants outside of where your body weight is, so outside of your base of support, and the knee buckles under you. So shocking luck for Sam, and go under the knife for reconstruction again, and we'll have to wait another 12 months before we see him. But hopefully we see him at the back end of next year, and he can have a bit better luck going forward.
I'm not sure if the chatting of injuries is good to lead into our next topic, to be really honest.
How's this got you feeling?
I was terrible. It makes me feel sick.
So, Steve, you
touching wood.
Yes, we wish Scully all the best. He's making his return this week. It's been a theme through our show today, getting some advice from some of our guests. Now, I know you two have actually spoken about briefly, about how Scully should approach this. What would your official advice be?
2 days out or 4 days out.
Well, yeah, he's done well not to get injured in the lead up with all of his preparation, given he's done nothing. So that was the first sort of agreement that we had, that you don't want to fall over before you get to the line. It's a travel game, mate. So you got to make sure when you get over there, you do your mobility off the flight. I'm guessing you don't. And then you've got a long trip down to Gippsland, so weather's not going to be on your side either. I'd imagine it's going to be nice and fresh down there. The one piece of advice I would give you would be warm up well. Don't start on the bench and let yourself cool down. So if you're only going to play a half of footy, play that first half. And if you can plonk yourself forward and dictate terms a little bit, rather than chase an arse like you did for most of your career.
Okay.
Being reactive, it just means you're a little bit higher risk.
Just keep it above the belt to be nice. I'm playing in the ruck. I've done no preparation. Some of that preparation may involve drinking beers. Okay, so I've got to warm up. And I assume no high speed efforts. You'd probably keep it within a walk to jog range.
If you can, mate, I'd just roam around that centre square, mate, and patrol the
corridor. Nice.
I like it. And is there any scientific or physio extra risk if you do have a couple of schooners the night before the game?
It might calm the nerves, mate. I think go for it.
He's got the tick.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Steve.
Brilliant, Steve. We might actually have to get you in the studio next week, seeing how Scully pulls up. But we wish him the best. Thanks, mate.
I've cleared my 9 o'clock appointment on Monday morning, mate.
Ready to go.
See you then.
Front runner and physiotherapy. You can book in any other time, just not 9 o'clock Monday, because Scully will be there. Thanks, Steve. That was our injury update. Well, that has been another episode of the Footy Interchange. Will Schofield, I know we had a bit of a joke about it through, but all the best this weekend.
I don't think you mean that.
No, I honestly do. I'm looking forward to seeing how you go. I want to see the highlights. And I hope you get through unscathed and everyone has fun, and I'm sure you give the boys a rev up.
I'm really looking forward to it. It's going to be really good fun. I've got a few of those in my kit bag because I just do think that out of all the players playing, so it's Hawkins, Deledio, Cloak, Pavlich here at Beverley in WA, and myself, I'm clearly the lowest ranked player. I do understand that, but I think I'm the highest ranked player in terms of banter and value off the field. So I'm leaning into that. I'll give the pre-game, the half game. I'll be doing the oranges. It's going to be brilliant. I can't wait. It's going to be good.
To get one of the Grove Rovers on the Footy Interchange next week.
Mate,
just
that'd be
good.
good.
Debrief.
Yeah, keen as.
And get the other side of the story.
Good.
Which would be brilliant. Plenty of things coming up as well. As always, people, you can send through your questions. Would love you to be a patron as well and help support the podcast. There's a couple of other events coming if you're in Perth in particular. First one that I'll throw out there is the Great Derby Quiz, which is happening on the Tuesday night of Derby week, which is coming up very soon at the Wembley Hotel.
Nice.
Scully's going to be there. Xavier Ellis is going to be there. David Mundy's going to be there. I'm going to be there. Ryan Daniels is going to be there. And it's a quiz night with a difference. With a bit of a footy panel on the way through. Heaps of prizes to give away, so people can get involved with that. I'll put the link in the YouTube comments for people to check it out.
Great. What's the date again?
The 22nd of July, Tuesday, the 22nd of July.
So if you want to just make it a double header, Tuesday into Wednesday night, you can join us at the Leederville Hotel for our big Derby preview special, 6PR, BackChat, special collaboration.
There's collabs everywhere.
It's great. So there'll be Mark Reddings, myself, running Wide World of Sports. I think there could be a little mini interactive quiz being involved on the night.
Yep.
Lee Spur will be there.
Yep.
I can tell you now, Liam Duggan will be there,
Nice.
captain of the West Coast Eagles. Should be they actually should be just as fun as each other, right?
Yep.
And I would do both if I was you. That is on the Wednesday before the Derby at the Leederville Hotel. Tickets are available in our bio.
So go and check all that out. We'd love to see you along if you're in the West or even if you want to come across and check it out. Scully, good luck on the weekend.
Thank you.
Looking forward to seeing that next week. Thanks to everyone for tuning in today to the Footy Interchange.